regulars coming in, but we're starting a little earlier this time than usual. So my name is Leslie Fortoy. That's Ryan. So I've actually been, it's been a privilege for me because I've been a part of this chapter now for about 2 years. And it's been really incredible to be a part of this community. Toronto is just, it's been really welcoming, and you guys are really great. So I'm just sort of using my time up here to say that. But I don't do it alone. I've got a committee of incredible people working with me, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to introduce some of them to you. So you guys all know Ryan, of course. And we also have Emily Clara Fan. Danielle Engels. Justin Kwok, who actually organized the panel tonight. Jonathan Remedios, who's unfortunately sick tonight. And our newest member, Alex Hayter, who has just joined us as our social media guru. So if you've been seeing a lot more activity on our Facebook and Twitter, you know why. Besides that, this is actually our kickoff for our new season. So we've got our 2012-2013 season starting tonight. This is kind of a new thing for us because it's kind of tied to our sponsorship program. So I'm going to invite Danielle up here to tell you a little bit more about that. Woo, Danielle!
Hello. So part of our mandate for this season, as Leslie said, is to continue to grow the Toronto IGDA chapter. And one of the key ways we want to do that is by partnering with local businesses. So because the IGDA Toronto chapter is a volunteer-run organization, and because we want to continue to remain accessible to the game development community at large, we've partnered with a number of organizations whose support will help us create relevant programming in the months to come. We are thrilled to be kicking off this new season of IGDA Toronto with fantastic sponsorship support from Ubisoft Toronto as our gold sponsor. The City of Toronto as our silver sponsor, and they've generously allowed us to use the space for our meetings. Massive Damage has come on board as bronze sponsor this year. As well as Get Set Games is also a bronze sponsor. So over the coming months, we will continue to build our sponsorship program with the goal of expanding our session topics, hosting dynamic speakers, and giving the Toronto game developers exposures to valuable industry knowledge, panels, and keynotes. So thanks again to our sponsors for helping us make these meetings and IGA Toronto a success.
So now you will be wowed and entertained by our moderator, Ryan.
Thanks so much, Leslie. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Ryan Henson-Creighton. I'm the president and founder of Untold Entertainment, Inc., which is a small Toronto studio just up the street. And I want to state my relationship to Freemium. I've never launched a Freemium game, but I have a number of projects on our slate currently, and I'm this close. I have, like a toe in the water, but I'm reticent to dive into it because of issues I hope that we'll discuss tonight. So this is our panel on Freemium, what it is, why it is, and what we all plan to do about it. And we have a fantastic group of gentlemen lined up from all walks of life. They're all guys, I'm going to do the lazy moderator thing. I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves in turn. I want to know who they are, where they come from, and what their relationship is to Freemium. So starting with the no-hat gentleman to my left.
How you doing? My name is Rob Sandberg. I'm a senior producer at Fuse. I came to Freemium kind of through a roundabout way. It was this gentleman right here that recruited me for a job about 6 years ago for an alternative way to fund games. At that time, it was skill gaming. I was fleeing console at the time because I knew it was a dying art form from a biz dev perspective. And since then, I've had an amazing journey here in Toronto. And for the last couple of years, I've been working with Fuse Games, which is solely dedicated to producing freemium titles.
Thanks, Rob. To your left.
I'm Amy Smith. I work at Get Set Games. Get Set Games obviously built their house on Freemium games with Mega Jump and Mega Run for the iPhone. Before that, I worked on Freemium Facebook games and then Freemium iPhone games, and now more Freemium iPhone games. So this is all I've ever known.
Okay, my name is Trevor Fencott, and my relationship to Freemium is a circuitous route as well. I started off many years ago now building a boutique publisher with a partner like John Walsh, and we did retail console games and watched that evolve, and then we tried to take it online, and that was somewhat less evolved. And seeing the shift to sort of social and mobile, and started out in the early days of mobile doing sort of like the 99-cent price point thing, and sort of seeing that erode and watching consumer behaviors change. So my road to freemium has been sort of a series of success followed by failure, success followed by failure, and I think it's the new model for consumers. So anyway, that's my long path.
Hey, I'm Nathan Vella. I'm the co-founder and president at Cappy. My relationship to freemium is that I'd like to announce that Sword and Sorcery is going freemium right now. I actually, I'm the odd man out here. We've never done nor ever considered doing a free-to-play game. And we're still playing in the space that people like to refer to as the dinosaurs or the dying land, which coincidentally still supports us really well, as well as most of the independent games communities.
Thanks. Give your panel a hand. It's the stereotypical thing to do. It's the boring thing to do. But I just want to make sure the whole room is on the same page. I want to define freemium. And Trevor, you're the self-ordained grandpa or grizzled vet on the panel. So why don't you take a stab? You guys can try that too. Take a stab at educate us. Tell us what freemium is.
In my opinion, so freemium has a couple of ugly PR jobs attached to it. So for me, freemium is simply a way of getting someone else to pay for your gaming experience. That's the model that I think is the one that works. It's the one that wasn't pioneered by games. It's actually what every TV series is based on. It's delivering an advertising audience, and people get monetized, allow someone else to pay for them to be entertained. So that's what I think freemium is. What freemium is not to me is trickery. And like, oh, the button is so close that my fat finger, oh, I just got charged $100. That's not freemium. That's sort of something different. That's a compulsion loop, or that's mistake gaming or whatever. So that's not what freemium is to me.
So somebody else is paying for your gaming experience. Who are the types of people who can pay for your gaming experience?
Largely they're advertising.
Okay. Does anyone else want to chime in and color that, or?
Yeah, I mean, so that's one method, is the advertising method, where you would consume ads in order to have a free experience. So really the advertiser is paying for the game experience instead of you. The other method is what we employ, which is more the additional gaming. So you get the game for free, and then if you want more of it is when you pay. So it's a little bit of, try it out, like it, and then pay if you like it and want more. It's kind of like a play now, pay later type of thing.
So would you say that's a case of other players paying for the game that you want to play?
It's a case of you paying to play the game more, or less in some cases, which is if you want to progress through a game faster, you can pay to do it better.
But actually, I really like that definition, because it is someone else is subsidizing your gaming experience, just other gamers that do actually decide to pay the 99 cents for your game. I can play it for free all day long, right? And I just don't get to put in work. So I like that.
So growing up, I was given an allowance. Trevor, would you say that since my mom bought video games for me, was that still freemium model, somebody else is paying.
Medium.
Freemium. All right. Rob, you want to chime in? Did you have any?
Yeah, I just to add to that, I think a freemium game needs to be a complete game. It isn't an incomplete game. You're not giving somebody just a little bit of the game. A good freemium game, you should be able to progress through the entire game and have the exact same type of a game experience that a paying player has. A paying player, though, may be able to do it a little bit faster. And really, at the end of the day, that's what we're selling. Is we're selling time. We're giving you the ability to get what you want a little bit faster. So it's they're not sub games. Like the free player doesn't get like a sub gaming experience. They get the full gaming experience. They see everything that a paying player does. Just the paying player sees it a little bit faster.
And Nathan, is this fair? Is it accurate?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I don't see. Yeah, that's what happens.
Okay.
How it happens is
Right.
different per game, but
I think what we just described, though, is you described how you do freemium, I described how we do it, you described how you do it, but nobody's described how the people that none of us like do it.
Which we'll get. We do, believe me, the entire middle section of the panel is devoted to discussing how is. I'm interested in finding out, though, the audience who here, having heard the description of freemium, who here has played a freemium game? It's like almost everybody else. Keep your hand up. Wait. Okay, keep your hand up if you enjoyed the experience. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And keep your hand up if you, after that first experience, you continue to play freemium games. So a couple hands going down, like, no, screw this. But for the most part, hands up. Thanks, guys.
Who bought in?
What's that?
who's
Oh, yeah. That was a. So
no way.
Who has spent money in a freemium game? So.
I put some bucks.
Ryan, under that definition, though, like you should also ask people who played demos in the old sort of school world, who played a demo and then purchased the game. That's also freemium, arguably, in that model.
Right. So I was going to ask, what's the difference between freemium and shareware? Isn't it just the same thing?
See, we're not going to play the nuanced. We're specifically talking about the type of game that's meant to monetize players based off of free games, right? Like meant to say, here is a complete experience, which a demo is not. You can play it, you're going to have to wait 7 hours between play sessions if you want to play the full thing, or you can pay, $2 and skip those 7 hours of wait. I think it's very unfair to categorize demos as the same as free play.
No, it's a genus and species thing, but I'm thinking like if you had an advertising-based model, like let's say you watch an ad at the beginning of a game, the game was basically the same game as you would have played, right? You would have purchased it for 99 cents. We just had an ad at the beginning. And the gameplay after that point...
Technically, I think that falls way more in ad-supported gaming than the type of like free-to-play that I think the panel's meant to be discussing, but I think in general, like, I think ad-supported games, and this is something like when I was saying some of it is not necessarily the way it works. I think that ad-supported gaming is, if your sole opportunity for generating revenue, if you have no in-app purchase, if you're getting a complete game that you just have to watch 3 ads in the middle of, that's not free to play, and that doesn't really count as premium to me. That's more ad-supported gaming, which I think is like...
But it's free.
It's free, but it's not the style of game that I think...
There's no me on the end of it.
Yeah, it's free. It's ad-supported. I think there's a specific distinction between ad-supported gaming and free-to-play gaming.
So what if you take it to TV as an analogy? If TV did freemium, what would TV look like?
You get the first like 2 minutes of the show, then the next 10 minutes of the show would play at 1/100th of speed. And then pay 99 cents to watch the next 4 minutes at regular speed, at which point it goes back to slow-mo, and you have to keep paying 99
And
cents.
each time you try to change the channel, it'll go right back to the...
Exactly, yeah. And along the way, you can like pay another 99 cents to maybe like dress the main character in a different outfit. Or you could pay like $300 and be able to actually move the characters around on the screen.
And don't forget, if you paid extra money, you are able to watch the next episode, but only payers are able to watch episode 2. And maybe there's a crap ending episode 2 that everybody else gets, yeah? Or maybe HD. Maybe the payers only get HD, which actually is a revenue model that's out there now. You pay to get the HD stream. Rob, you were going to jump in.
No, I was just going to say, the other thing is HBO. You pay a little bit more, and you get an uninterrupted entertainment experience. So,
Right, but you're paying up front, and they never ask you for more money It's like, I mean, that's World of Warcraft.
You haven't seen my Rogers bill.
Rogers bill is up front. They're not trying to, they're not giving you the first little bit. Well, actually,
I like the way you're arguing that a cable company's billing is all up front.
I'll rescind that.
Is that a crucial quality of Freemium for you, Nathan, that there's a constant...
Well, no, I
I
think it's important that we define the space in which we're discussing, and I think the space in which we're discussing is the idea of microtransactions inside of a game that people can play for free. And those microtransactions are how the game makes money. Now, there are a lot of games, I know Get Set does it, where they combine advertising revenue with in-app purchases, but the game itself, you can skip every single commercial, it doesn't matter, and you can still consume the game for free or purchase in-app if you want.
So is everybody okay with leaving ads supported behind and just focusing on microtransactions, or are you really, Trevor, you look like you want it in there really bad.
I mean, no, I think that, I do think that most of our blend, like 99% of it's going to be a blend of microtransactions and ads. To me, it's, the microtransaction to me is like an offer wall or something. Like if you watch this ad, it's still a microtransaction. The developer still receives 1.4 cents for that microtransaction. They've done something and money's changed hands. So, I mean, I think it is, I don't know of any sort of like purely ad-supported stuff that I would use as an example. I think
The entire Android market.
99.9% was
Android.
free, but then they came back around with in-app purchases.
Yeah, but I mean, most of the Android market is wholly ad-supported. There's no, it's just like Angry
but
Birds.
you're talking about the by design, right? Like basically.
No, Angry Birds is the same on iPhone as it is on Android. The only difference is on
So for you, freemium, then there's nothing on Android that's freemium.
well, there is now, but there wasn't for a significant period of time.
I guess the
the
what I
majority.
would say is I think it's a blend. I don't think you're going to get, like, I'm happy discussing the thing. I just don't want to lop off the asymptote that like ads are somehow, like it's only ad supported, that it's not somehow free,
Okay,
right?
it's fair, we keep it in there, we keep it on the plate, but we'll make sure that microtransactions are part of it. Rob, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I want to make a distinction about the advertising. The type of work that we do at Fuse is we deal with incentivized advertising. This is a lot different. This just isn't a passive ad that's sitting in, you know, the bottom of the screen that, you know, maybe somebody will click on. We're talking about an ad that you need to watch from beginning to end, and at the end of that ad, there's a value proposition. You'll get you know, a grant of in-game currency, and that in-game currency is the exact same currency that you can pay for. Okay, so that's a hard monetization model. About, you know, my boss is here, so I'll probably give him the go to it. About a third of our revenue is coming from in-game advertising. We do really, really well from incentivized advertising. But another type of advertising that we actually capitalize on, that we're doing more and more of, is the social capital. You know, you think, you look at what does it cost to acquire a new user? It could cost $1, $2, $3, maybe even more to acquire a new user. But if we can grant an in-game currency, and so that because you've invited some friends, you know, that, you know, what's the difference? There's a value proposition there. So when you're talking about microtransactions, it doesn't necessarily have to be hard capital. Okay, it could be, you know, watching an ad. It could be inviting 3 or 4 of your friends. You know, to us, I'll be honest with you, we kind of look at it the same way. When we're balancing our economies, we consider those types of variables.
Thanks, Rob. I'll tell you guys a little bit of a fable. Once upon a time, you used to be able to, you know, go to the store with your hard-earned money. You had usually 65, 70 bucks here in Canada, and you plunk it down on the counter, and you get a game, and you take it home, and it would be the entire game, and you know, play for hours, enjoy it or not, or whatever. You're stuck with it. You can return these things, and that's how gaming went. It feels like I went to sleep and woke up, and now we're talking about offer walls. We're talking about value propositions. We got freemium and in-game currencies. How, you know, the invasion is upon us. How did it get here? Where did, you know?
I think it is important to mention that, like, the bulk of revenue generated in video games is not through free-to-play. Like, we're still in an age where that's how 90% of the money in the industry is made.
Right, but what's interesting is that both Trevor and Rob said that they fled from that, so they're fleeing the most profitable part of the industry. Why flee and why side with our alien invaders? I mean, where did it come? Let's start with where did it come from? Where did all this stuff? What's that?
Well, no, you can tell that you're partial, clearly. But I think that But the traditional, like the console industry continues to make the bulk of money. So, you know, there's no question there. I don't dispute that. It's a question, I think, for me of who is making that money, right? And I think that for us at least, from a kind of a making retail console game perspective, it just became, you know, cost prohibitive because the risk profile shifted so drastically. You've got, so I would say that the bulk of money isn't being made by independent console game developers. You know, you can't carry teams.
But I mean, it is possible to make that argument. Every 6 months that goes by, the same way the thing is happening in free-to-play. The number of independent free-to-play games that are generating the bulk of the revenue are decreasing, and the ones owned by the EAs, and that those are the guys that seem to be putting out the Zyngas, seem to be generating the bulk of the revenue in the free-to-play space as well.
But I'm not sure that bulk of revenue means profitability, though, right? You could be paying ridiculous rates for customer acquisition.
But there's still room in this space for anyone to come in, even though the bulk of revenue is being brought up. It's like, you know, Get Set Games, 4 guys is not going to make a console game, right? Like, it's just not going to happen.
Like the console retail.
The console retail, yeah, exactly. So I think that's where the big shift is you're right, like that's why EA is now jumping into the freemium space, is because the little guys did it, found out it was great, and then brought them in. But I think with that, we're talking about the small space that I know of, like the social mobile. Freemium really came from the race to the bottom on the iOS store, I think. You know, like games, when the App Store first launched, it's like you paid $4 for Bejeweled. Same version of Bejeweled you played anywhere else, but now it's $4. And then it's
Which was even less than what you were originally paying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's $20, yeah.
Yeah, and so then that happens, and then it's like, well, Bejeweled Blitz comes out on Facebook for free because they didn't have a way to monetize. And then it's like, well, why am I going to pay for the same game on my phone that I'm paying on that? And so I think that's what it did, is it was a race to the bottom, and then you hit the bottom and realize you can't just make a game and give it away for free. You can't.
I think a lot of people saw what companies like Nexon were doing with MapleStory.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out a way to bring that idea and that disgusting amount of money that MapleStory somehow made, and bring that over in a way that makes sense. Like there's a lot of the foundations from people I've talked to, there's a lot of European publishers who are really trying to like figure out what Nexon and the South Korean companies were doing, and they couldn't really figure it out.
And it was Asia. I think Asia by necessity showed the rest of the world that microtransactions could work. The idea that the price point could be 2 cents and that you could still make $1 billion was a very interesting thing that we overlooked in our pursuit of other parts of the industry. So.
It's I don't know. I've got this card here. I didn't know we'd get to this so quickly, but there's this elephant in the room here, and there's this undercurrent of grr going on, I think, on the panel, and you know, in the audience as well. When people were asking me about this panel, I said, no, I don't want to go to a panel on freemium. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. So there's obviously an opposition to the whole model, and I wondered if we could just lightly, gently open that up for discussion. What have you seen that, and if you have, what do you think is causing that pushback against this model?
Get over it. I mean, come on, we're not in the video game club, we're in the video game industry, you know, we're here to make money, you know, and we're not saying that freemium is going to take over and every piece of entertainment you're going to consume is going to be freemium. All we're saying is right now, there's a great piece of the pie to be carved out if you're wily and you're smart, right, and you want to take advantage of this, and that's where I chose to be. When I was making console games, we were so limited in terms of creativity. You know, we had so many people designed by committee. We had, you know, publishing partners that were influencing our designs and our games, and we had no control over it. And we were making crap products, and we couldn't get good deals because our last deal were crap products, and it was frustrating. Now I work in freemium. I have never had so much fun as a producer since I've been making freemium games. It's a huge challenge. I don't have all the TRCs, TCRs to deal with. I've got best practices that I got to deal with. I got to look at my competitors. You know, it's really a lot of fun, and there's a great opportunity to make money, but it's not the only model, you know? I mean, we've got other people here on our panel who have said that they're quite successful making games with their business model, and that's fine. But, you know, all I got to say is don't drape yourself in the flag of being a core gamer. Just because you don't like it, there are a lot of mavens out there. There are a lot of very excited, energetic gamers out there that really love these games and enjoy this entertainment. And you get more kicks at the can. You get more opportunities to try new things. So that's all I gotta say, is just get over it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it quite that way.
But I mean, you're dancing around a bit. What's not to like?
Well, I think that there's a misapprehension that freemium equals a bad game, right? And again, I would go back to the Hero Academy's fucking rad. Well, it's like, look, they're bad games are bad games. I think part of my disillusionment with the console industry was, and again, as a person who commissioned and marketed and sold Marine Sharpshooter.
That's a good game.
That was a good game.
Walmart.
That was a lot of money, and Walmart loved it. It was just a Walmart product, right? But when we did Marine Sharpshooter 1, it was basically, it's like, we get it. This is not advancing the art. So like that kind of thing, that kind of commercial enterprise has always existed. I mean, I love console games. That there are certain experiences that I can only have on them, and certain experiences I can only have on a PC. So I wouldn't say that freemium is just one model, but it's a model that's very well suited to mobile and social, because it's the way people consume that kind of content, right? That's the whole reason with iTunes, basically, did the same thing for music. It's like, well, I don't want your CD, dude. You know why? I'm not going to walk around with a CD net anymore. I want to have it mobilely, and I don't want to pay $19.99 for your best of the 80s hits thing, because I only want the one song.
I just want Journey.
I just want
Well, I think it's really interesting when you talk about free-to-play in general. Everybody it focuses pretty hard on the guts of free-to-play, which are the significant portion of the games based on feeding addiction loops. And we are talking about a significant amount in the free-to-play space. Like the vast majority. This panel doesn't represent a very good eye on that, because none of the games really have the idea of scamming you out of money by forcing you to, or tricking your brain into thinking that you really love this game. But I do think that it's very interesting that the automatic assumption is that free-to-play is basically either Farmville, or what you guys are doing, which is like quick games that have some currency that I can play, pay some money to make my character look radder, or add some extra items, or get a fridge, which is dress up the fridge. Yeah. I think that it's very interesting that that's what people focus on, rather than talking about League of Legends, or what Hawkins going to do, or what Puzzle Pirates did like fucking 9 years ago. I also think it's very interesting that when free-to-play is discussed, it's only ever discussed as a business model. It's never discussed as a piece, cultural influence is never discussed as enjoyment factor, like how do I make the best game possible. The only way to do it is to make it free-to-play. That's never in the dialogue. The dialogue is consistently and permanently about how to monetize. And I think that what it does is it really confuses a lot of people, including myself. I'm extremely interested in the space. And I would love to figure out a way to do it where I can speak about putting something out that I think adds a little bit to gaming culture, or something that I feel was a true creative endeavor that was vision over financial. And that can happen, and it is happening right now. But it's like 4 games out of like 400,000, and that's the frustration that I think I feel. Because what I see is a whole lot of people doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, rather than they're playing is like this is free to play, right? We're giant. Here's where 99% of the people are, and they're fighting all over the same thing because they've seen so much money come into it that no one other than actually some of the people at this table. So kind of a mood argument with you guys, but with everyone else, is everybody's fighting over the same middle 1% rather than trying to innovate their way into the other 99%.
But that's why I didn't want to exclude the ad model from it, because basically you're right. If 2% of your players are monetizing, that's right. You can totally fight over them, and I'm going to trick you more than me. No, I'm tricking you harder, and you can do that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I think that is to misunderstand that the 98% can be effectively monetized and are happy to be monetized. If you look at my example of, you think of TV again, back to the TV example. There are lots of great TV shows that are out there that are clearly ad supported, right? Forget about your Rogers bill, but like the actual model is delivering an audience, and people are okay with that. Like, I'm happy to watch a commercial if it means I can watch a show that I want to watch. And there can be great artistry in TV, right? As opposed to kind of just I think the distinction here is to confuse the late night infomercial, right, with an actual TV program like Walking Dead or whatever.
Can I just throw something out there real quick? One of my biggest beef with freemium and stuff is the implication that I can't like Farmville. Right? Like, you've already said it. That the only reason I could like Farmville is because it's tricking me into liking it.
But Farmville is built to do that. Hey, you can still
You know
like
what? You know what? When I'm playing Portal, for God's sakes, when I stop playing Portal, I'm like, oh, I can't stop thinking about Portal. Like, how am I going to get that next puzzle? You know what I mean?
This is interesting because I attended GDC for numerous years, and I was always in the room with these casual game developers, and year over year they kept saying, how do we make a game that's addictive is the word they use. Oh, we got to make a game that's more addictive. And then finally, they make games that are certifiably addictive, and everyone's like, oh, why'd you go and do that? Why'd you go make an addictive game? So, I mean, remember our heritage, fellas. Our heritage is we used to have games in boxes that were designed to suck money out of our wallets, quarters in small increments. How is what's going on now any different? What's that?
That was EverQuest in World of Warcraft. People losing their job because I can't just unhook from the, it's been happening. We've been trying to do
For sure, and I don't want to, I know a lot of people who play and enjoy Farmville. That can't happen. All I'm saying is that the core design principle of that and many other games is to actually figure out the balance between the grind and the feedback, so that people will actually have some kind of play.
But how is that different from normal game balance?
That's game design.
It's not. No. No.
Look,
It's game design.
How is effort and payoff not game design?
No one sat there while making Portal and said, "Man, if we just move this thing over here, someone's gonna pay 35 cents for that."
No. Was if we give them that breath in the middle to think about it, they're going to have more fun at the next set of puzzles. We're going to give them that easy puzzle in the middle so the next set's harder and it's more rewarding. Or we'll have a hard puzzle and an easy puzzle so it's better. So Farmville's not that much different. They're saying, do your easy thing with your crops. Take a breath. So the waiting part is the breather. Come back, click your buttons, get your reward.
Right, but there's no opportunity for people in Portal to fast forward through that wait time.
No, and
that's where the actual nuts and bolts of.
But what if I want to? What if I don't want to do that silly easy puzzle that's going to take me 15 minutes?
You're not allowed
I want
to
just jump straight to the
You're
heart.
not allowed to because the core of the experience is about that ebb and flow. It is a lot of the times when I'm talking about one of the things that I enjoy the most about working about independent games is it's vision first.
Yep.
So if somebody says this is the game that I want to make, and I don't give a fuck what anybody else
But
says.
it can't be, that's not axiomatic that independent development is vision first, right? That's the way your studio's approaching it. You've been very successful that way, but I'm saying that's not.
Yeah, there are the exceptions. I'm stereotyping, I'm generalizing. Predominantly, in the independent development scene, people put vision first.
I don't know if I totally agree with that. I mean,
Counterpoint.
pardon me?
Counterpoint, too.
Well, I think that that's one approach, but another approach is it's the game industry and it's the business of making a game, and you can't live on art and noodles, man. You gotta.
But no, but the very interesting part of it, and this is coming from my experience, and I think the experience of a lot of other independent studios, is that you make more money being creative than you do trying to fight over the same piece.
I would say that the experience of the majority of independent studios is that they would like to be maybe in vision first, but most of them get trapped in the cycle, and I have been trapped in the cycle of terrible deal with terrible publisher that creates terrible product. You're stuck in that because you have to keep the lights on, and the vision is the thing that's secondary. It's the keeping the business afloat that becomes primary. In independent, and it's a hard scrabble existence. Independent game development is very, very hard.
Yeah, that's something
Right?
we don't need
And seriously, totally.
I disagree.
The last 7 years we're agreeing.
That's right. No, but the beginnings of Cappy were not vision first. The beginnings of Cappy were let's make some games and let's pay some bills.
It was always vision first, and then you get as far as you can before someone cuts you off. I think there's a substantial difference there, right? We never said, man, fuck this vision, let's just go make some money. But when we started saying, let's make this vision the way that we can see it, that's when we started to make the way that we see it.
And I'm not denying your experiences with success.
But I don't think that I think that is the vast majority of successful independent studios experience as well.
Well, I would say the vast majority of independent studios are struggling to reach that level of success. I guess, and maybe that's
For sure,
the same.
for sure. And I don't think that precludes my point, right?
But also, you're saying that, like, you know, Rovio was an independent studio. Was.
Yeah, they only made, what, 50 games before?
Yeah, exactly. But, like, you know, at one point Zynga was an independent studio. And, like, at one point all of these studios were independent. And so what you're saying, I think, more is that the studios that stay independent, because I think that's more apt.
Well, then once you're not independent, the vision is not your vision anymore. It's whoever bought your vision. So
That's fair.
that doesn't, you know, the second that Microsoft buys Twisted Pixel, it doesn't matter what Twisted Pixel wants. At some point, it's going to be Microsoft.
Okay, so then, but then it becomes about if the vision can be bought, that's fee for service, right? Everyone who's done a fee for service game, put up your hand.
I'm doing one right now.
And that's okay, because it keeps the lights on, right? And that's
Barely.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, and I don't know how the argument got to that. All I'm saying is, when the argument is monetization first versus vision first, there is some gray area in there that causes, I think, a lot of the problems that people have, including myself, with the, like, and again, this panel is totally excluded from my argument because you guys don't do that. But the vast majority, like the Dragon Veils and stuff like that is entire, like, anybody here from, what's Capcom Mobile, Beeline, like the whole thing behind the Smurfs game at some point was to incentivize people to buy tons of shit. And how do you do that? Well, you give them a whole lot of reasons and a whole lot of, like, push to do it. I don't think that when, like, I don't think that it's fair to you know, categorize all free-to-play games as that. But that is the nuts and bolts of most of the successful ones that we, as game developers who traditionally scoff at free-to-play, are thinking of when we talk about.
So that's something I wanted to ask. That's a really interesting point because my company makes games using the Flash technology and has for years. Other people would say, oh, you make Flash games. And there's this stigma attached to Flash games. So when you think Flash game, you think, oh, there's a stick man and there's a potty and he's running around. It's all vector graphics, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, discount stuff like Machinarium that's gorgeously illustrated and it was a PC downloadable game, but it was built in Flash, right? So do we run the risk of attaching this label of freemium, and then when you say, well, what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on a freemium game, then all this stuff, you know, floats around your brain. Oh, I know exactly what that experience is going to like. Oh, you're working on a piece of garbage game is what you're saying. Do we risk that?
Yeah, well, you know, I wanted to speak to that point. Thank you for bringing that up because, you know, being on teams that make freemium games, it isn't just money. You know, we're not a bunch of money bags sitting around with our little mustaches going, oh, money.
When asked why, you said money first. That was your actual.
Well, I'm a producer. Of course I'm going to say that. So, but you know, at the end of the day, one of the biggest challenges I have as a producer, right, is getting game development teams to get on my side. Right? Because they are there for the vision. They're there for the art. That's what they're pushing for. They don't give a fuck about art gal and art poo. They don't care about any of that stuff. They want to make a kick-ass game. And our challenge, my challenge as a producer, is to convince people that you can have your cake and eat it too, okay? You can create the high art. If you look at the top grossing games right now, a lot of those games are amazingly good-looking, phenomenal games. From an artistic perspective, they are. Yes, do we use engagement loops that you're talking about? Of course they do. Right? But, you know, the art that went into that and the numbers of years of craftsmanship that it took to make those visions, to realize those visions, are tremendous. So, yes, your designer is just as important as your business intelligence guy. I mean, they really are, but they are equally as important, you know? Your lead artist, the person who realizes that vision, is just as important as the person who designs that damn icon to get the people to download it. They're all equal, and they all have to be considered. So it's not an either or. You know, I think you can realize your grand vision, and that's the brass ring. You can realize your grand vision. I've got this amazing idea for a game, and now I've got this other vehicle, this other way that I can monetize it. I don't think it's as black and white.
Straight up agree with that, and there's many people right now who are proving that. But I think that's part of my frustration with the model is that so few people approach it that way. I think, and this is just it's the Hawken model, right? Where Hawken shows their demo. Everyone actually shits in their pants. And then
Can you explain, because some of us, including me, aren't
You
familiar with
lose
hawking.
control. Yeah.
Oh, you lose control, now I know, okay. Got it. No, hawking, tell us about hawking.
Hawking, if you don't know what hawking is and you're here,
Ew, and there's a bunch of bands we probably haven't heard of either. Break it down in simple plebeian terms, just neck game, okay.
it's probably the highest profile, hardcore, free-to-play game right now.
And what's different about the way that freemium is implemented in it from other games?
Actually, not a lot of people know exactly how it is implemented yet.
Oh.
because when it came out, when it was first announced, it wasn't announced as a free-to-play game.
So it's kind of like the Google thing or the Twitter thing, like amass users and then figure out what to do with them? Or?
No, they'll have a plan. I'm pretty, like, it's going to be...
It's microtransactions.
Yeah,
Microtransactions.
load down
Improving
your
your Mac
Mac,
and stuff,
you know,
Right.
it's probably similar to Tribes Ascend or some Planet Side or something like that.
So play to win or
Pay to win, you mean?
yeah, pay to win or
I'm sure it's probably pay to customize.
pay to customize? So more like Team Fortress 2 by hats?
Yeah. Team Fortress 2 is probably close. Yeah, Pin My Robot. That's probably, I think it's a great idea. Copyright.
So it was a really interesting roundtable at PAX. It was actually a producers roundtable, Rob, where they were talking to a bunch of people. And one of the, I think a lot of them worked for freemium companies. One of the questions that came up was, have you ever been, it was weird, it's like a compromising situations kind of question. Have you ever been put in a position where you have to sacrifice, a lot of what Nathan's talking about, sacrifice the vision or cripple the gameplay or do something dirty or bad in order to satisfy a business requirement? A bunch of hands went up and there were a bunch of violins playing and sob stories about that. I wonder, do you feel that working for a freemium company, you are fighting an HR battle? Do you find it'll be more difficult to recruit people, or do you, like you say, it's just a matter of getting them on your side and talking them down the ledge?
Well, there are issues there. I mean, we have a partner that we worked with in the past that literally had folks on their team that says, you know what, we don't believe in this freemium and we're not into it. And I hate to say it, those people were let go. They were let go from that team. And since then, that partner's become one of our most amazing, most profitable, incredible partners to deal with. So, you're always going to face that. Video game developers are like the smartest, most incredible, intelligent, passionate people I've ever worked with. But sometimes it's that passion for the art that kind of outweighs the bigger picture. And personally, I went into the situation knowing that I was making freemium games. I'm an artist too. For those of you who know me, I draw, I illustrate, I do installation art. I'm an artist too. Okay, I may be a money guy, but I'm also into the art. I've never really had to compromise. The only thing I've had to compromise are my budgets because my boss doesn't give me enough money to make the game. That's that really is at the end of the day. I've never had a situation where I had to make a choice because of a compulsion loop or because of a trickery technique or what have you. Now, I got to admit, do I give up space on the HUD for a button that says get free, gold or whatever? Yeah, I admit that's a concession. I gave up that space. But I'll tell you what, putting that little button there made a quantifiable, dent, and it made a quantifiable, noticeable improvement in our revenue.
Was it right next to like push here to win button?
Same color. Actually, I think one of the interesting things we've glossed over a bit is Get Set, who most of you should know, like TO Jam and Heroes and a huge part of this whole scene. Mega Jump started out as a paid download game, right? It wasn't something that was built from the ground up to blah blah blah. It was something that changed out of maybe necessity or maybe extreme intelligence.
I can tell that story real quick if you.
I find it really interesting because it does.
Do.
Basically, Mega Jump came out. It was 99-cent download, super fun arcade game, endless jumper. We did a deal with a partner, which is OpenFaint, which is now Greed, which it could be the devil.
Yeah.
What's OpenFaint real quickly?
OpenFaint was like a
precursor to Game Center.
Yeah,
it was like a precursor to Game Center. It was like Xbox Live, but for iOS games. So we did a free game of the day weekend with them, had 1 million downloads. A bunch of people came in, it was great. Then in an update decided to try out some freemium stuff, which was paying to buy the currency that you were already collecting. Did another free weekend, and then realized that we're making way more money from the free players buying the stuff than we ever were from actually selling the game for 99 cents. And that was it. It was just, let's just turn it on free all the time.
And was it ad supported at that time, or
No.
it was completely microtransactions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, see, now you've got a thing with, you've got Jetpack Joyride, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. What they've done is something that I don't like, which is they made a freemium game, released it paid, and then
everyone who bought Fruit Ninja to buy it.
Yeah. So it's released it paid, and a ton of people bought it. It's great. It's a great game.
It's fantastic.
And then they were like, oh, let's try this freemium thing real quick. What do we have to do to make it different? Make it free. It was the exact same game. They didn't add anything to it. They just put it free, went straight to #1 again, and now they take money baths.
The interesting thing though is I don't actually think that, I think they haven't made as giant amounts of money off the free version, and as I think everybody thought that they would.
Yeah.
It turns out that it was, I mean, they're still, they made so much money with it at 99 cents that it's hard to compete with that. But
I saw Luke talk at something, I can't remember what, but his graph, his unmarked graph of money was release, and then drop, and then freemium, and then drop. So according to them, they've made like handfuls more than they did before. Yeah.
But the model's also, again, one of the things I think it's important to understand about freemium is the model continues to evolve.
That's,
right?
I'm hoping so,
like,
yeah.
Our first 99 cent thing, and then we'll put the free, and we'll figure it out. Like we did it on the Playbrains side. We did the first version of Jaws, which is a 99 cent game back in the days when, you can do that. And it did okay, and then you switched to free, but it wasn't designed for that kind of stuff. It was like an airplane lander kind of game mechanic. But even in just sort of 1 or 2 years, the model changed so drastically that there's nothing more you can do with that. You can't bolt more stuff onto it. It just doesn't work. So the bath of money, I guess, thing is not, I'm not sure that it's repeatable that way.
Well, one thing with Mega Run, which you guys should get, because it's the best.
And free, yes.
And free. With Mega Run was from the ground up freemium, right? And so one of these like concessions, and so with the guys in the office, there's very different levels of comfort with freemium. Some of the guys are not against it, but like really, really want to lightly touch it. Some of the other guys want to do everything all the time, right? They won't say which one of them I am, but anyway. So one of the big fights we had was whether or not we had a premium currency in the game. So with Mega Jump, you collect coins, you spend the coins, and that's it. With Mega Run, you collect coins, you spend the coins, but there's also like Mega Bucks. Mega Bucks?
Something like that.
I don't remember. Mega Points.
I don't buy them.
Yeah, there's Mega Points that you can then buy, and so there are things, so if you want to unlock a world early, you can spend Mega Points. If you want to unlock a power-up early, you can spend Mega Points. There are characters that you can only get if you spend Mega Points. And so that was one of those comfort things that was
can you trade in-game currency in for Mega Points?
No.
You have to buy Mega Points.
You have to, yeah.
You can get them from that split system.
You can get them from ads, yes.
So I'm gonna call the panel to a grinding halt right now. If you'd like the panel to continue, we're gonna pass a hat around. Rob, you said something really interesting at the top that I wanted to throw to Andy because they hadn't talked in a while, but now he's been yapping, so it's all yours. You were talking about this Shangri-La that the freemium model has created for developers, where you're free from the tethers of publishers and you're all skipping through meadows, and it's wonderful. But what I'm seeing and what I saw with the Get Set guys was a situation where they had that fantastic. You guys had that fantastic success with Mega Run. With Mega Jump, when Mega Run came out, you found that what was going on was all these companies were really into the user acquisition thing, so they would get massive bucks from VCs, and they would be chucking money. Like I think Matt mentioned, like somebody was doing $12 per user, so they were paying. It was great. They were paying $12 for every user that they got to download the game and play it. So, when I was talking to Matt, he said you guys just couldn't compete on that. So I'm wondering, do you guys think that there was a window and the window is slowly closing, or do you think there's still room for?
Well, no. First of all, paid installs are crap because we use them. We buy installs to get position. We use strategies.
Maybe you should stop.
No.
That's what your user acquisition
business.
interest.
They have no, you have to understand, they have their need. We use them to drive rank, to drive position, okay? But those users, those incentivized users.
Can you explain that a little bit? You buy people so that your rank on the App Store goes higher?
I'll give you an example in retail. It's an end cap. It's
Yeah.
the same thing. You're just marketing a product. It's like you wanted to get in front of a consumer. You used to buy the end cap in EV. You go in and it's right in your face. So
Right.
this is you buy terrifying installs to get your.
So at the same time as we're saying that it's possible for tons of independent studios to get into the space, we're also saying the best way to succeed is to pay to buy
No,
space.
I never said that independent studios can get into this space without a partnership. No, I never said that. I couldn't imagine
You don't
being
need
a couple of guys in
partnership.
a garage. We operate at a little bit larger scale, so we will use these paid installs to actually help us try to drive our position in the store. We want organic lift. We want people to discover our app, right, in the App Store when you get up above that 50, 40, 30 spot where it'll just take off and soar. But you can't get there if you're just a couple of guys in a garage who just released a game and cross your fingers and hope that people discover it, because it doesn't work that way. There's just too much traffic.
But I would also say that it's even worse if you're the guy in the garage putting out a game for 99 cents. It's hard. That's very hard.
Yeah.
I mean, free. I mean, this is maybe the bifurcation here is between sort of like things that are way less probable and things that are just sort of hard. And I think it's hard even with the freemium model, where your model is to get as much exposure as you can. You're designing your game to actually be viral that way and just propagate itself. Versus, I'm going to do something great and hope people notice it and pay 99 cents. That's just a hard proposition.
To hope people notice it is like, I know a ton of people that do that in the iOS space, but like that's not the only way that it's done. You can put a game out and do your best to make people notice it. And
Oh yeah. Getting positioned in the store is only one thing. I mean, virality is a big deal. You got to be able to get the word out. PR, marketing. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. You got to market your wares just like you would in any other business. But my point about the bad traffic is, so these people, they received an incentive for installing your game. That doesn't mean they're going to come back and be a converted player. They likely won't convert. They serve their purpose to help us achieve the position in the rank. And now we have that long tail where we want to be able to find those people that will convert, that will have an emotional attachment to our game and be willing to open their wallets for us.
See, I don't know, maybe I'm a Luddite and maybe I'm a purist or something, but that sounds fucking nuts. Like, it sounds crazy that in order to get people to play your game, you have to buy people to play your game. Like, to me, it basically, what we're talking about is, like, if in order for people to want to play Clash of Heroes on Xbox Live Arcade, we had to pay a huge sum of money that no one would ever give us in order to get enough people to play it to make it popular.
If you're engaged in any kind of marketing, though, you're buying people, right? It just that's
Is there a difference between that and?
There's a huge difference. Like our budgets.
One is direct. That's I think the only difference to me.
No, I don't think so.
What about free
Buying a
samples?
PR campaign,
I would go to
Street-corner free samples. You go and they're giving away like little bottles of Coke or whatever. Is that different?
I'm
or the
just
same?
talking about, like, there is, in this day and age, there's huge opportunities for independent developers to promote their games for less than $25,000. Huge, like, $25,000 will go so insanely far. We've never had a game with a budget anywhere close to that, and you can do crazy things with it. How many?
You can't buy enough users with $25,000.
No, you can't.
Big top anyway.
Nathan, when's the last time you put a game on the App Store? Just ask.
Sorcery was 2010? Was it 2010, 2011? I can't remember.
Yeah, your game, bro. I'm only pointing. It's a lot different.
It is for sure. And I understand totally that it's changing all the time, but I still think that
Thanks, agree.
if we but I still totally believe that if we put Sorcery out today, it would do the same or better numbers that it did a year and a half ago.
What would be different that would make it do better this time?
We would just be able to position it better as a game for people who care about games, rather than, like, when we put it out, there was a lot less push towards freemium, and we could, like, the whole idea behind Sorcery was to make a game for people on the devices that would enjoy that specific experience.
So you would market almost as an antithesis to that model?
Not really. I just think it would be easier to convince people that it was the end.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So
We're going to get to questions soon.
So everybody who downloaded a game off of their iPhone because they heard about it through PR or advertising or magazine, please raise your hand. Okay, now put your hands down. Now, who downloaded a game because you saw it was a top 10 game and you just thought you'd take a chance on it? There you go. I mean, it's you know.
Who's downloaded the game because it was on an offer wall, like Tapjoy?
You cheat that.
Really? Wow. I got a kid, man. She's into every stupid game.
My point being is there's lots of different strategies for acquisition, and having having an amazing game and having word of mouth and virality and all that. That's all we could ever hope for. That's absolutely amazing. But sometimes you got to.
And did you guys buy users?
No, because it's too much damn money.
Yeah, but you sort of do, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
so
trade
let's talk
users.
so
trades.
there are trades. So what we do is we do trades. MegaJump has a ton of users. The number I don't want to mention again.
To say it.
It's 40 million.
Whoa!
So what?
Canada and one state.
What we did for Mega Run is we set up cross promos with folks like these, where we would promote their games and our games, send them users, and they'd send users, and they'd hold off until Mega Run came out, and then we had a bunch of people send us users on day one. And so we don't count the number of users coming in, but we count the number of clicks on our ads for coming in. And it took, to spill some sauce for a second, it took about 2 million clicks to reach number one in free games. And so that's a crazy amount of people. So like doing that organically, I think is insane. But one of the things I want to mention about chart position that's so important is when a freemium game falls out of the charts, the profits plummet. Because we've got a very high churn. We've got
Charts being top 10, top 25, whatever shows up on your device.
Yeah, like basically, it's top 200. If you fall off to 200, falls to 200, you don't exist,
Yeah.
right? So it's so important to be up there. Like you'll just see money just drop, and totally lost where I was going there.
Well, I'll pick it up, but this is why, again, I didn't want to preclude ads from this discussion, because I think, like, again, as with a more modest developer hat on it, at Playbrains, we have games that have very, or comparatively high DAO, that are just simple match 3, flicky games, and we tried it at 99 cents. We did that. We sold. So we found that actually, when we put it to free as well, we did all the early experimentation in Freemium. But I mean, right now, one of the projects we're working on is kind of revisiting that with 6 Waves to try to kind of capitalize on that in a freemium model where it's ad driven, because people don't care. They're going to wait for their bus and they're going to watch an ad and then play for 5 minutes and then we'll monetize that way. But so we don't have to worry about if we fall off the top 10, then we're plummeting because we're not making that kind of investment. And that's the no sort of marketing kind of guerrilla tactic. But for us, it means a couple of $1,000 a month, 5,000 or whatever. It'll keep the lights on. It'll be a revenue source. So it doesn't have to be epic.
Well, and there's one other situation where there are titles that maybe not be on the top charts for paid or free, but you'd be surprised at where they are on top grossing because they had such high ARPDAUs and they have such high engagement and they have and they have such
high retention. I would say high retention if they're not on the charts and they're
So for ARPDAU is average revenue per daily user.
Yeah.
Daily active user.
Yeah. We found with a match 3 game, 88% of the people came back and played it the next day versus because it wasn't. You're not really going up very many levels. There's not sort of any story arc to it, but it was just fun to play.
So was Sorcery was $1 when it launched, right?
No,
$3.
Sorcery was $5.
Yeah. So this is the question I really want to get to. Is right off the top, Rob, you were saying that you said freemium is a model. I've been reading a lot of articles where people are proclaiming that freemium is the only model. So I'd really love to get your opinion on that. Well, let's talk about platform. iOS, is freemium the only sane model to pursue, or are there other opportunities?
Okay.
Do it.
If you were making a mass market game, a game for everyone, a non-niche game, yeah, it probably is one of unless you're going to play the iPhone lottery and put in your budget and pull the lever and hope that it comes up 3 cherries. I think that a lot of people will be doing mass market games as free to play. A huge percentage.
And what's the alternative?
If you're making a niche game, I think you're a moron if you're doing free to play. I think having freemium components within your paid app makes sense, but It's the whole like trying to get 1% of 100% or 100% of 10% or 100% of 1%, sorry.
But I think it's important, though, to notice that the market you're addressing with many of these premium and casual products is much bigger than the gaming industry has ever addressed before, right? We used to have sort of a hardcore, male-dominated gaming audience.
Flurry just put out figures today, and the predominant free-to-play users are still males 18 to 34. So that whole logic, I don't know if I necessarily... It's adding to it, yes, but the predominant spenders are males.
But freemium's only, sorry,
that 2%. I'm talking about the 100%. I mean, that's why, again, I didn't want to put ads up there.
Right.
The 2%, the whales that, like, I just spent $30,000 on my credit card, all that stuff that freemium, the pejoratives on freemium, the easy public targets, I don't think that represents freemium. And what about the 98% that are, fine with just being advertised to? Right? From a developer perspective, I don't actually care. As long as it's getting someone else to pay for the game experience that I can get money to keep the studio lights up. That's what's important.
And to be fair, for those Flurry numbers, Flurry is a mobile, I mean, that's where they're getting their numbers from, right? So they're not...
They're semi-trust, I think, people trust Flurry. I don't know. They're not like BG charts.
Right.
I don't know. We've had discrepancies with that.
I don't know, like anything, they're probably not crazy accurate, but it is, like, I get a lot, or I hear a lot of people saying, well, like, okay, we're really, free to play, and again, like advertising, I don't know how that fits into what people are talking about, but a lot of it talks about, well, the best part about it is it's drawing in all these new users, but it's still predominantly being...
No, I wasn't saying freemium was full. I'm saying casual users.
Yes.
Well, all I can say is this. I mean, reality is because of the way the platform is set up, we don't have demographic information on our games. We say we're not going to make a game for women ages 25 to 35 who with this income or whatever. We don't know that. What we do know is we know the behaviors of people on their devices. That's all we can really get. At Fuse, we have this amazing backend called Fusebox, which is a little plug, by the way. Which is our analytics.
Where can we buy that, Rob? Is that
and the information we collect, we don't collect like demographic information. What we do is we identify people based off their play habits and their behaviors and how often they come back, and and it's messaging to those players based off of their behaviors and not who they are as individuals, but how they play the game. That's where our focus is. So I mean, I can't speak to the accuracy or inaccuracy of the Flurry numbers or not, but in a way, it's like, who cares? It's like, there's people out there that are opening their wallet who are watching an ad for a value proposition. And I don't care who they are, what I care about is what they do. And that's the thing that you really need to watch for, is you need to watch for how those people play games and the types of things that they're doing and give them more of what they're asking for.
Thanks, Rob. I have 2 quick hit questions for each of the panelists, and while we spool that up, I'll open it to the floor. If you'd like to ask a question, microphone here in the middle aisle, just got no hands, got a microphone, nice try, buddy. So while you're queuing up for the mic, the 2 quick hits are kind of like dark side, light side. So I've read this book called Influence by Cialdini, which some of you may have read, which is describing ways in which to control people. And the way the guy writes it is like, here's how you can control someone, but you really shouldn't. In chapter 2, here's another way, but you really shouldn't, right? But of course, in the wrong hands, you can read all his tips and techniques and really put them to bad use. So I wondered if you could sit down the panel in the back, tell us about a dirty trick that you've seen employed in Freemium, and then if you've got the creative foresight, maybe tell us a way that you foresee Freemium being used that's new or original or neat or fun or good, sort of like a light side thing. And I'll start. So one of the dark techniques that we've seen before is when you have a prompt. This was described to me at PAX, so I'm stealing it. But you've got a prompt and you've got the big buy now button. It's big and it's green and it's shining, and you've got the close button. But of course, the close button is not up in the top right. Now it's at the bottom left. So this is the escape paying button. It's at the bottom left, and it's not big, it's little, and the buy thing is big. So you've basically taken UI conventions and completely turned them on their head in order to sort of coerce your player into pressing the button you want them to press. So, bad. Don't ever do that.
It's not like that even matters though, because they still have to enter their password.
Yeah, it's true, it's true.
The Smurfs helped us out with that one.
They did, yeah. Do you want to tell the story of what happened with Smurfs? He was supposed to, by the way, David Wiseman was supposed to be on this panel, which would have been amazing, but do you want to tell the story?
I'm last.
Oh, quickly, the Smurfs Village story. Unless it's one of yours. Did you have Smurfs Village? No. Smurfs Village, really quickly. A lot of parents, I think, thought, oh, Smurfs, it's nostalgic. I'll get it for my kids. I'll just blindly hand my device to my kids so they can play it. And it's free. It's a freemium game. So a lot of moms and dogs aren't educated about this relatively new model. So kids would be tapping away and they choose the gigantic kid-sized button for buying Smurf berries, which was their in-game currency, and moms were ending up with thousands of bucks on their credit card bills because kids are just blindly pushing these buttons. So because of that, what Nathan's referencing is Apple has now introduced, which I haven't found on my Android phone by the way, but there's now a setting where you can turn off in-game currency transactions, and when you activate them, it says no, you got to go turn it on. So not only it's asking for your password now, but you can shut it right the heck off. Daddy knows. Daddy likes. So Rob, dark side, bad thing to do in freemium. We don't like.
Well, I think you said it. And I think click from. You just can't do it. You can't do it on websites. You can't do it here. It's like to your point, it's worse on websites. At least with iOS, if you're a parent, God forbid, I couldn't even imagine giving my children my iTunes password. But even if you did, there's a mechanism for returns, right? But nonetheless, you should never trick somebody. They should willingly want to open their wallet for you and participate in what you're doing because they're engaged with your product and they're engaged with your brand, or they just think it's really fun and they really enjoy it. We have lots of satisfied customers that like us. They give us 5 stars. We love it. It's awesome. And, they're maybe not core gamers, or they're maybe not the types of games I would play, but people really enjoy it. There are some tricks that you can do that make things more engaged. Probably one of the funnest things that I've been involved with was coin collection. Every game you got coin collection. Well, we released a game where we made coin collection kind of a game, where there was an ascending tone as you started collecting it. And if you collected it fast enough, you got this nice little payoff, and you got a little bonus at the end. And we made it fun. We took a popular convention. It got to the point where I wouldn't collect my money, and I'd want to arrange it on the screen so I can collect it all and get it optimized. And it was a great trick, and it was a trick nonetheless, but it was something that was positive. Didn't take any money out of anybody's pocket, but it made them excited about wanting to come back and play the game.
Thanks, Rob. Andy, dark side, bright side?
I don't know. Other than just saying straight line to people, a lot of the conventions that people hate, I don't have a problem with because I enjoy those mechanics. I like the wait mechanic. It gives me time to stop playing Farmville. I like the ask your friends for 10 whatevers because it gives me a chance to actually connect with the people who are playing the game. It might take me 10 days to do the same thing with the same friend, but at the very least we're having fun with it. I might agree with one that you guys throw up there, but I don't have a really, other than fraud thing, I really this is terrible.
And is there one that you haven't seen done a lot, or one that you've just invented on the spot that you'd love to see more of?
There's a game, Battle Nations. They did some really, really cool stuff they combined a bunch of genres in the freemium space. So they had the battle freemium genre, and they had the farm build freemium genre, and they had the social friend connect freemium genre. And I really liked that they took, all of those things were all based around freemium, but they basically took the best features of all of them and shoved them all into one game.
Cool, thanks. Trevor, give us a dirtbag technique.
Well, the things that I hate to see are when there's flagrant marketing to children. So it's less about the fraud, and it's more about the whatever tween angst and we're going to go bug our parents again. So you're making a game that perhaps isn't appropriate for kids to play, and you're influencing them in a way that you may not be allowed to directly or legally. And I say that as someone who made the game about Sour Patch Kids. Very nice. So it's that's something that unfortunately that's part of where there's money. There's also going to be that kind of influence. So that's the dark side to me. The light side to me though is freemium to me is a very important part of the democratization of content. It's an opening of opportunities and access that doors that were shutting in sort of console or large-scale development are now opening. And they open partially with the the advent of the App Store, right? And now a continuation of that is another way to monetize your content.
So by democratization, do you mean that by seeing what people buy more, you know more what to develop for people? Is that?
No, I wouldn't say that. I'd just say the opening up of systems and allowing people avenues to monetize.
Oh, from a developer's perspective.
Yeah,
oh, okay,
that's
yeah,
right. Because again, we went to this whole place where first it was all PC, right? Then we had consoles that shut this. The garden wall was shut. You had Sony and Microsoft that you were working and developing on the platform and spent all the money and stuff. And I thought that the mobile revolution was really good. And then in that, though, it became so crowded that we needed another mechanism. So for me, Freemium was an important tool in this increasing democratization.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I definitely do love the fact that you can, like, I can play Time Tower for nothing and know that everyone who has an Android or iOS device can play it for nothing. Like that's, you can go to the store, you can sign up for your contract, you can get a free device, and then play Playbrains games. That's pretty cool. Like that's, I really do like that. I do have a significant issue with games that are designed around, rather than a game idea, a cycle idea, or like a game that it's like, okay, so here's what the game's going to be. It's going to be this thing. Now let's just slap some beautiful, amazing, like some of my favorite artists work at Zynga, right? Like I love a lot of what they do visually, but no matter how pretty of art you slap around it, I still think that there is something inherently morally wrong about building a game around trying to find people who get stuck in that cycle.
Okay.
I think that's probably to me on the same level as QuickBride.
What about Tetris? That's sort of compulsive, like that.
No, Tetris was not designed specifically to get people to do this so they spend money on Tetris.
That's
You mean arcade versions?
Okay, well, we'll discuss it.
We're having beers later, so don't worry. We'll settle this one out. And what's something that, I mean, because you...
I think if anybody hasn't had a chance to play Puzzle Pirates, go play Puzzle Pirates. It's an extremely intelligent, interesting, and accessible use of free-to-play that no one's, for some reason, no one's fucking cloned it. It's crazy that no one has done a new Puzzle Pirates, but I'm really like, I love the free-to-play space. I think it's an amazing opportunity for specifically creative, independent studios to figure out a way to do new things, to do what you guys did before, literally like most people did. It was like, okay, well, this game's not performing, what if we try this and try that? Like, there's so much space in free-to-play for people to try, fail, and then try again, that like you can't do that in pay to download. You try once, you fail, your game is done. That's what happens, right? But that's the space. So I think the best thing that Freemium is offering to people is this chance to play on the business side, not just, put it out and do your best. Yeah, like unfortunately, there's not a ton of people trying it, but I think that it's because everybody saw where VC money was going, so everybody got on that, like they saw that dangling carrot, and everybody saw the huge successes, people hauling in, like how much did Rage of Bahamut say they were making a day? Like $300,000 a day for a while on mobile game?
The CSR made
yes, 12 million in the first month. People see that and then they're just like, I'm just doing that. That's what I'm like, 12 million a month, I'm dead. So yeah, I do think that it's stupid cliche to say, but to me that's like the actual Wild West. Like you're gonna try a lot of new shit if you're willing to play in that like new business within Freemium, but some of it's gonna stick and some of it's gonna stick crazy hard.
Thanks, Nathan. Before we take questions, I'd like everyone to give it a huge round of applause. We're awesome now. Another approach, and then like through the roof, this spike of another approach. And then he put the labels on the graph. He said the first little bump was game with trailer. Game with no trailer. And then the second little bump was game with trailer and demo. Third bump, game with trailer, no demo. Through the roof. So they found that you sell way more copies when you don't put a demo out. And the rationalization was that as soon as somebody tries the demo, they're over it. They know what that's about. They didn't know what it was about. They tried it. Oh, that's what it's about. Yeah, that's okay.
There's games on XBLA that convert 20%. Like,
That's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And then there like Critter Crunch on PSN converts like 1.2%.
That's average, that's standard. Yeah.
That's a bit understandard for PSN.
All right.
But still,
You're substitute.
yeah, we are.
I think with arcade games like with Mega Jump, Mega Run, is part of the reason it's such a big draw is because you get that whole experience. If you were like, hey, play Mega Jump, and it stopped you at the end of level 1 and then was like paid to continue playing, well, that's a bad freemium model right there anyway.
Did anybody see Ghost Trick on iOS? Ghost Trick is a fucking wonderful game, but I'm like, I just wanted to buy the damn game. Why am I, like, I beat 3 chapters and then it's asking me for $4.99 and I'm like, it was just so confused. And I think that on mobile, trying to convince people who have already been, like, it's over, people already are used to free to play, people are already used to, like, pay per download, anything in between is going to be really tough to convince people that there's an actual value proposition there, that there's an actual, like, people are going to think or assume that because they're playing the game for free that it's just going to be free. And I think that's a very risky thing for developers.
Thanks.
Hi. So the hands in the room at the start clearly said that free-to-play works and people, some of us even like it, right? But one of the things you guys haven't talked about in the last hour at all, which surprises me, is pay to win. So it's free to play, but you can buy the best items right at the start of the game. You walk in, you destroy everybody's scores, jump to the top of the leaderboard. What do you guys think about that? Like, all your hatred or all your bad points have all been moral from the most part. So what about, like, it seems that's what people hate the most.
I don't like that model personally. You know what I mean? It's not something, I don't feel any sense of accomplishment when I just have bought my victory, right? Like, it has to be, for me at least, there's got to be a progression loop that's a little more gradual. I'm not convinced that it works. If you look at one of our earliest experiments, was a Facebook game way back in the day, the golf game. And we found that basically, this is the early experiment where it had no practical value. Like we thought +7 golf club, that would be great. No, it was actually the weird thing that was just very expensive and it was conspicuous consumption item. So it's like, I'm not sure that it's necessarily a good technique either.
I think in general, people have learned very quickly that pay to win causes huge problems with their ability to monetize the non-pay to win people. So I mean, while you do see it now a bit, you even see people like Tribes Ascend has no real pay to win. You can still buy better weapons, but the weapons aren't overpowered enough that skill or weapon trumps skill. Like a good Tribes Ascend player can still beat a player who's bought heavy armor and the mortar most times. So I mean, I don't think, to me, that the pay to win is almost a moot point because so many people are moving away from it.
Yeah. And I mean, but just it seems like a lot of companies are, well, the ones that try the pay to win tend to fail.
It's very hard to balance.
Yeah,
it's very, very hard to balance.
Yeah, and the successful ones tend to be the ones that are all like cosmetic or add extra stash or whatever.
Hey, look like a badass.
So I've looked into this a lot, and what's really weird is that it all comes down to the game and the audience and the platform. Like, it really depends. With Moshi, it's a monetization platform for Flash games online. That their press likes to put up this chart about the different types of microtransactions in the game and what's really sold. And hats and cosmetic goods flatlined. Like, not one single person bought a hat in any game on that entire system. But Team Fortress 2, people love hats, right? So it really comes down to the audience. There are certain pay-to-win games that have a rabid fan base. It goes back to what Nathan was saying about catering to a niche. There are certain people, like those who like it a lot, but it's not for everyone. But don't discount it as something that I don't think you should never do. For the right people in the right place, they dig it.
Real money auction house?
What's that?
Real money auction house?
Well, I mean, like, yeah, what was, like, Diablo 3 had, like, pay-to-win stuff in it, right? Man, that game's hurting. Nobody's ever played that, right? Come on.
Well,
you know.
yeah, but that had a lot of hype to live up to, and then they fucked up.
Yeah, that's like the positive.
They fucked up and only sold 10 million.
Exactly. Cool. Thanks for your question.
Thanks.
Just for the record, 5 of the top 10 grossing apps in the Canadian App Store right now are pay to win.
5 of the...
No one cares about the Canadian App Store, John.
John just said, in the Canadian App Store, with its 15 players, the top 5 games are pay to win.
The US account's probably free.
Oh, it's the same.
Yeah, for
It's
it.
almost the same thing, but my point is, pay to win makes a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah. So it's even if you don't like it, that's what Andy was saying. Even if you don't like Farmville, tough nuts to you. A lot of people do, right? If you don't like pay to win, there are plenty of people who do and will pay.
Yeah. I'm kind of ripping on the other guy's question, except with a further elaboration. Excluding the esteemed panel right here, can you guys give me examples of games you think use free to play really well and ones that use it very poorly, and just maybe a quick example of either?
Yeah. Okay. So your favorite and your least favorite examples of freemium games or free to play games.
Well, obviously, Team Fortress 2 is my favorite example of free-to-play games. I've spent a stupid amount of cash in it on
How
the
much?
stupidest things. Probably like $200 or $300. Gotta get them crates, homie.
Well, remember, he does work for Get Set Games.
And my example one that I don't like, actually, as an example, if Sword and Sorcery were free-to-play, I would have hated it. Like I'm like if I like the Room is a good example. It's not a free to play game. It's amazing on iPad right now. If it had been free to play, I would have hated it. But I put my money up front and played it. So it's really the types of the social mobile games, the arcade games, those types of genres I think are great in free to play. But when you move into, like Nathan was saying, with the niche games, it's just like, leave me alone. If the next Call of Duty that came out was free to play, like, fuck that. Like, I'm going to give you my $60 and just let me play the game I want.
Well, I think I find it interesting. There's like the Ghost Recon went free to play in Asia, and it's coming here free to play.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, and it worked. I mean, he was making sick amounts of money off of it. It can be done for sure, but I think the argument or the point of like take something that's not meant for it, hear that it's buzzy, put it in there. It's never going to work. It's never going to work.
Well, what's your favorite game that does work? What's your favorite freemium game?
I got a bunch. I love Tiny Tower. I think Tiny Tower is. I played it through. Like I played one huge session without paying anything, and then I paid one huge session where I decided to pay once and see what the difference was. And I was like, oh, I can understand why people might want to do this. I'm not one of those people. I'm going to continue playing without paying. I think that Pocket Planes is obviously extremely well done as well. Both of those games really function well as Sims first. I think I don't play League of Legends, but I'm extremely interested in what they do. I think they've created something it's so fresh from a business standpoint. Like there's no one doing anything like it, and no one is trying to do anything like it because they can't anymore because League of Legends already won. I mean, Dota 2 is probably going to do something similar to it, and now there's talk a lot about the StarCraft 2 multiplayer maybe going free to play, or the next Warcraft, or I think there's going to be more and more, month by month, more and more examples of people doing it right, and people doing it respectfully, and people doing it with a balance of
Trevor, what do you like?
Again, I don't think I represent the demographic. I like things.
What do you like? What do you like?
I like Dragon Ball, like stuff
Okay.
like that, because again, for me, it's something that I can play with my kids and stuff. So something is, I like it. It's colorful, and I get it. I understand how they're manipulating me, but I don't mind that because the play experience is designed to be do it and then walk away and try to breed your dragons, and then if that failed, so I'm going to try again. That's okay for me. The stuff that I don't like. And there's many things that there's probably more that I don't like at the moment. Obviously the Spurs was a terrible example, or again, a good example of something that I thought was terrible because it was such a conversation piece to people who were maybe trying to, we as an industry, we had just gotten into this place where, okay, it's dinner table talk, and okay, it's good, and you can have a real career, and it's all this sort of good stuff, and then it's like, oh yeah, and I know someone who got charged $10,000. It was like, yeah, I have a friend who got charged, and I thought that sort of set us back a little bit. So I didn't like that.
Rob, what are you playing? What do you like?
You know, I mean, I play everything. I sample everything. I don't play it. I sample it because you have to, as a producer, you have to stay on top of best practices. So I see it all, and some of it all kind of blurs. But I'd have to say, like Hero Academy really stood out to me because I have strategy roots, and I actually work with a couple of the guys that made that game, and so it has a place in my heart. It's probably the one I probably put the most time into. You know, in terms of doing it wrong, I mean, it's all of those obvious bolt-ins. You know what I mean? I'll be honest with you, one of our games was an obvious bolt-in. We did, Jaws Revenge. Its first couple of iterations were pretty rough, man. It was pretty obvious that we didn't quite get it right. But the beauty of this platform is we took that feedback, we adjusted it, we tweaked it, we tuned it, we optimized, and now it's the overall user experience is actually a lot better. So I think in general, what I don't like is things that are pulled in that aren't obvious, that aren't fixed.
Cool, thanks. For my part, I see your tiny tower and I raise you Lil Kingdom. The Lil Kingdom is like Tiny Tower if you just love sexy graphics and just eye candy the whole time. It's great. Don't like Ice Age Village. My daughter said, "Oh, play Ice Age Village with me, Dad." So I did. I said, little girl, the first 5 minutes, they're just trying to hook you psychologically. So you click here, here, here. As I was doing it, I was getting hooked psychologically. And I was forced to play it for the next 3 weeks because it's just in my brain. So not a big fan of Ice Age Village. Thanks for your question.
You love it.
I've got two questions actually, but one should be rather quick. Video games become like a hobby for most people. They spend your time, they take your hours. You're bored, you play, you've got spare money, you spend it. I think everything costs either time, money, or effort. Freemium games, they seem to cover all of those areas. If you've got the spare time, you'll put it in. If you feel bored, you'll put all of your extra effort. And if you've got disposable income, you'll spend it. Are freemium games trying to cater to as many people as possible to bring non-gamers into the market? Or are they trying to evolve what actually exists in the market into a new direction?
Oh, I think it's all about bringing more people into the game. Premium games can't work in a niche. They have to have critical mass. They have to have mass appeal. And to me, that's one of the biggest challenges is to create an experience that's going to hook a person like yourself, that's a hobbyist, that's part of what they're doing. But then also maybe to hook your mother or to hook your neighbors.
Hook your mother. Soundbite of the evening.
It would be, I would love to be able to sell games to everyone, because that's the only way you're going to make them work. They need that critical mass. And so if I can make a play mechanic that engages you enough that you appreciate the cleverness to it, but also too somebody who's a fresh, maybe never touched a game, maybe they just got an iPhone yesterday, iPhone 5 yesterday when they came out. If they download it and they get that same experience, that's great. I think it's a win-win for everybody.
I don't think freemium is a way to hook new people. I think freemium is a way to monetize people that wouldn't traditionally be monetized. Like, League of Legends is not going to get my mom in it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen.
The Facebook component of it's a little weird because it's like a big step easier.
The delivery of it. Like, most freemium games, I would say, are mobile social.
Yeah.
So, like, it's those platforms that are bringing in the new people. Yes. And what we're doing, making freemium games, is monetizing those new people.
But I would say, though, that it's the fact that it's free that's allowing access to a lot of these things. Like, one of my observations was, again, back to the simple mastery stuff. Successful games in a retail environment are like, look, 500,000 units. That's you're making decent money there. But
studios are getting closed over 2 million copies.
Well, big studio, yeah, for sure. But I'm saying, like, with a little simple mastery game, it's still got 400,000 people downloaded it and played it. But but the part of it is free, right? So that's, I think, part of it is the outreach and the fact that it's free and that it's on the platforms.
Like yoga. Like, I never paid for yoga, but I'll take a free class kind of thing. I will never pay for yoga. Cool. What was your quick second question?
That was a very eloquent question. Yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. My second question. If you look back, sports enthusiasts, they all buy small amounts of merchandise and accessories. I'll use the golfing example because that's what I was thinking of when I came up. As a golfer, I noticed there are dozens of people that have the ugliest outfits imaginable. They've got these absolutely disgusting little covers for their golf clubs that do nothing. This concept's been around for decades. People have been spending additional income just to make themselves stand out in their field. Do you think that this is just a human nature concept, or are we only just discovering that recently?
I think it's probably Darwinian. Shiny tail feathers and stuff like that too. Like,
I think one thing that's very interesting is that, I mean, we're very North American centric. We're very, like, we think a lot about the American market, but even on iOS, China and Japan are huge, mega, insane free-to-play consumers. Like, probably within the next year, they'll both, like, surpass the States. China already has surpassed the States on iOS free-to-play dollars. And a big part of that has to do with the shiny tail feathers. It has to do with, it's all customization, it's all status items, and I think part of that, that's part of League of Legends, it's part of Team Fortress, it's part of people, like, the idea of putting yourself into the game, or being in the game, or whatever you want to call it, I think is a really powerful thing. And it's, again, one of those things where it is entirely, it's very hard to trick people into wanting to buy something that's cool. You just have to make something cool. Whereas it's relatively easy to trick someone into doing other things. I think the customization side of it is one of the more honest and like, I have a very hard time arguing against letting someone buy something that they want to buy because it makes their character look more like the way they want it to look. So I think it's a really, like, I think that, like, spending $300 on hats, like, if you think about the dude from North Carolina who's 17 that made that hat that gets rev share from Valve, you know, that's pretty cool.
Really, I mean, to the point of my glasses and my shoes, it's human nature to customize how you look. Like, I mean, Emily's boots. Those are some nice boots, right? You probably could have saved some money by not buying such nice boots. Presumably.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's human nature to want to customize, to want to spend that money on that. And I don't think, so the guy with his ugly golf club thing, I bet he fucking loves that golf club.
Like the hot dog ones, he's like,
oh,
yeah, walking the hot dog.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely just, it's human nature. I think letting people do that in a game is just, I think it's great. I mean, Tiny Tower, Pocket Planes. All the money I spent in that was dressing up my pilot to look like a convict, just waiting for a plane full of police.
Let's play games inside Andy's head. Thanks for all your questions. Next up.
What's up, guys? I'm more, in my head, I'm kind of thinking about capturing those advertising dollars. And, like, say I wanted to roll with, like, Harley Davidson or something. So, like, are you making cold calls? Are you responding to RFPs? How are you just business networking, hanging at the same clubs, whatever? How do you target those corporate dollars?
Well, people in the back, are you guys hearing these questions? No, really? Okay, so the question was, gentleman was asking about advertising and how the folks on the panel pull in the ad dollars from big brands like Harley Davidson or Coke or
whatever. And is there, like, once you ink that deal, are you signing like a term contract or something?
And what's the contract look like?
Yeah, no, it's kind of there's a couple of different things in that. But like one of them is you're talking about like branded entertainment, which is a little bit different. So from our example, we did World Gone Sour, which was a Sour Patch Kids game where because you can't advertise to children, it was a mature theme. But that was actually commissioned by Kraft. Like that's something that like, hey, your publisher effectively was a product company. But that's very different than advertising in games, unless the stuff we're talking about with iOS and mobile, where you're actually trafficking ads from another company. So they're two different sort of two different things.
And then
yeah, let me.
Like how do you get ads inside networks?
We go through ad networks. It's the same way as using. Yeah, there are no direct deals. As far as I know, other than other game companies, nobody actually wants to pay you to put their ads in your games. Now there are ad networks that are built around having two companies come together to promote within each other. But yeah, there's no like meeting up with a big brand and
that's usually because it's so fragmented. Right? The addressable audience is so fragmented that typically these ad networks sort of have to deal with larger players. Right? Like for example, on the Fuse side, I know that we can deal with more directly with. But most games are not going to draw enough water on their own to be like, hey, Chevy's, you're our guy, Chevy. Unless it's a branded entertainment product that's usually commissioned by them specifically.
Marketing.
That's right, it's a market.
It also sounds like a lot of work, and it's really easy to plug into that network.
Yeah.
Like stupid easy.
So does that sort of clear up how that works?
And the contracts, like, are you guys signing contracts?
Are you guys signing contracts with the ad networks?
We're clicking to agree.
Okay, so yeah, so behind the scenes, there's a 900-page contract that yes, they are agreeing to.
Just roll it to the bottom.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good. Next.
Yeah, you're scrolling.
I'll scroll to the bottom when they make me scroll.
What's your question?
Hi. I have to admit, I was really, really excited when I found out that someone that was working on sorcery is here tonight because I marked out hard on that game when I finally got a chance to try it. Now, I'm not an iOS gamer. I'm a PC gamer. And the reason why I was able to try Sword and Sorcery was because it was a part of one of the Humble Bundles. And that's something that I hadn't, I got here a little bit late, so I might have missed it, but I don't think so. We heard a lot about Freemium tonight, but we haven't heard about some of the other methods that are being used for alternate sources of either, getting money for games or even getting initial funding for games. Like bundles, indie bundles, which are huge, Steam discounting, and of course crowdsourcing. I mean, two of the big stories over the last few days has been the tremendous success of the crowdsourced game FTL and the Project Eternity crowdsourced Kickstarter, where they hit their $1.1 goal in like 24 hours, and they've still got like a month left. So I guess my question is, we've been talking a lot about freemium tonight, but is freemium actually important in and of itself, or is it more a symptom of a broader search for alternate forms of paying for games and getting funding for games? And if maybe some of these other methods pan out, especially when it comes to something really niche-friendly like crowdsourcing, is it possible that we might move away from the traditional boxed game sales without losing these sorts of niche products because they'll just move to other forms of monetization, like say bundling, like say crowdsourcing, or other things we haven't even seen yet?
So I guess the question is freemium and pay what you can, are these all artifacts of just a mad scramble to get away from publishers and gatekeepers? Is that what you're asking?
Essentially,
yeah,
yes.
Okay.
I mean, with freemium, like if freemium were to stop working, everyone would do something else. Like that's a bad answer, but it's like, we had a freemium game, so it's like that was great. Let's do another one. We're not going to be like that was great. Let's crowdsource the next one, and then let's heavily discount the next one with a humble bundle and get in on it. So I don't see anyone moving away from it who's in it unless they're experimenting, really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of it's in 2012 we now have like all these different avenues that we can explore, that we can chase down, that we can we can dig money out of a lot of different places. But because some work, I don't think the others are going to stop. In fact, I think like some people are just going to, when they see one working, they're going to dig harder in theirs, partly because they think the money's there, but also partly because they want to know that the money's there. They want to know that the way that they're going is working. So like I look at something like Kickstarter or something like the once huge, now kind of dry well in PC and in social free-to-play. Those are big opportunities that have come, that are there, that like people have taken advantage of, and I don't think it's going to change box retail. I don't think it's going to change going to a publisher and asking for money. I think it's just all it's doing is like adding another notch or another opportunity or another way to try to figure things out. And that's, to me, that's really positive, right? Like the more opportunities there are for you to find a way to get your game made, the better.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think though that the industry in general is undeniably changing. Right? We've seen like the rise of tides, and I think the retail is changing significantly.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact there are more options is great, but I think we also have to recognize that what we're seeing in games is the same thing we've seen in any kind of content. So So it's a bigger discussion, which is the perception of value and the value of content, the perception of content being free. We saw music, which we arguably see with the Netflixization of like TV and film and stuff. So we're seeing this across all things, and I think these are just ways of expressing different value propositions.
I think one of the best things about free-to-play is it's found a way to easily get money from people that had the opportunity not been there, would have not spent any money at all and probably wouldn't even play it. So it's like, if I could go onto my TV and choose what channels I want to buy and nothing else, I would spend significantly more money. I would pirate less HBO. I would, like, I would,
For example.
I buy music off of iTunes because it's easier than downloading.
But that's it. If you got Napster eyes, where how about you guys, how about the price is free? How about that price? You like that price? And then of course you're like, well, no, I don't like that price. I'm making this content. How about 99 cents? And that's where we...
Right, and I think that what happened there's the giant PC piracy argument, which we won't obviously get into, but I do think that one of the positive sides of something like League of Legends is when it was 4 dudes in a garage, that game would have been stolen like crazy had they tried to sell it for box retail price, and then all of a sudden the next thing you know is it is the pinnacle of hardcore.
And there's no mistake that this thing was pioneered in Asia. None. Like that if you have stuff on a server, you can't pirate it, right? That's anyway. I think we're far here.
Thanks for your question.
Thank you.
Next up.
Hi. My question is probably a bit of a can of worms, but not one which I think that any of the people present at the panel are responsible for producing games that work towards. But a lot of games which utilize sort of the Skinner box methodology and those addiction loops, you end up with whales on your game who are dropping insane amounts of money, sometimes because they really like it and they happen to have money to burn, but sometimes because they are insane. No, seriously though, there are people, there's a body of evidence that they're like, not evidence, but just like the idea that these games produce cycles which are particularly predatory for people with certain types of obsessive disorders and so on and so forth. Do you think, maybe to ask whether or not there's a responsibility on the part of developers to address that within their structures and monetization strategies isn't fair, because I mean, vodka producers they're not responsible for alcoholics, it's not the way it works. But
so
do you think the question is, sorry, do you think that there are strategies which can be employed to reduce that aspect of the monetization structure within Freemium?
So the question is, I think, are there ways to reduce the amount of predation that you are applying to your gamers, possibly gamers who are not right in the head?
Well, essentially, I'll be honest with you. I think the bigger problem would be maybe not the whales who are opening their wallet and giving away their family fortune or whatever. Maybe it's the obsessive compulsives that are playing the free game and are grinding hard. And I've seen that data. I've seen people. We look at the player progression, and we've got people that have made it in very, very far into our games, who are doing it because they're grinding and they're pushing it hard. So I don't think it's fair to say, should we put in safeguards to prevent spending on one side, where I think there's a bigger issue there about those types of addictive behaviors, and I don't agree. I agree that it's not our responsibility. We shouldn't make our products. I mean, obviously we're not going to advertise to children. We're not going to do these things that are predatory. But if we want to, if we make a game with something that's I've got an impulse and makes people buy it and get excited about it, I think that's okay. I don't think that we should rope ourselves in for outliers in our society.
So just kind of as a follow-up, like if somebody, this is coming off of a lunch that some of us were at, and somebody was bragging that they had someone who spent $35,000 in their game.
If you're in the audience, just stand. It's not here.
I guess my question is, like, as people, do you step in and say like, okay, you're cut off, or do you let them keep spending?
But it's the same argument though. I think the same argument as the World of Warcraft.
Well, now hold up, Trevor. You said that you didn't market the Sour Patch Kids game to kids because it's illegal. It's in fact not, to my knowledge, illegal to market junk food to kids. What happened was there was a consortium of companies that traditionally did this, so Coke and General Mills with Lucky Charms or whatever, and they got together, much like the ESA did and came up with the ESRB, they got together and formed a consortium to protect themselves from it becoming illegal and having the government step in and decide what to do, right? So while it was probably a good move on the part of the Sour Patch Kids IP owners, I mean, is it worthwhile for companies to now put, you know, pretty addictive PA ratings on their stuff? Should we preemptively organize around that, or should we just let the government come in and decide, listen?
My question was kind of loaded just because I followed this interesting story about people who were following FIFA. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the like microtransactions in FIFA, but there's a lot of like expendables you can buy, like run faster for one match, and it's 99 cents. And they were getting people that were 10, 12, 13K deep, and they had people on their customer service that would call those people up and be like, hey, guess what? Like, you spend enough, everything's free. Like, you get whatever you want.
We're calling in the room for the weekend.
Big stuff.
Yeah, because they were just like, okay, this is enough's enough, and you know.
Well, I think to like answer the question very quickly is like, no, we're not going to do anything to stop that. No, give me up for a second, because that's a lot of work. I'm not saying it to be funny. Like that's a genuine amount of dev time in order to.
And you guys aren't psychologists.
Yeah, we're not psychologists. Like for one, we'd have to find a way to identify that kind of behavior, to find a way to flag that person, to actually have a system that for a specific user will stop them from buying something. Like that's an entire.
And then you have to deal with that person's
rage. Exactly. And then like, what if we?
They're crazy rage.
So I mean, just like on a purely practical level, it's like no, I don't personally think it's a big enough problem that we would need to spend, you know, like 4 weeks of dev time, kind of thing, in order to set up a system like that.
It's the classic. It's the classic sort of how much responsibility does any kind of media or any kind of they have, like, you know, do violent video games make people violent? Do we have it's the same debate, and I think that on this one, I don't think we have a responsibility.
Well, no, I think we do have a moral responsibility not to build games that are purposely trying to exacerbate that situation.
Well, in my view, which is different, is that we all make games. Any kind of game design is designed to elicit a response, like any kind of design, whether it's basically putting like
eliciting joy and eliciting like desire to do same thing for an extended period of time are completely different emotions, right?
No, I don't like
Excellent question. Thank you so much. 3 questions remain until beer. 3 questions remain.
Sorry.
I'm sorry to stand between all of you and your beer.
3. Next.
The Little October Challenge is soon upon us. For those who don't know, Little being a quarterly game jam. The October Challenge fits between it. It's a challenge for new game makers to make their first dollar on their chosen creations. So for anyone in the room tonight who may be working on their first game, their second game, their 7th game, and are maybe looking to take that plunge, what would you recommend for someone in that regard? Would you recommend a freemium model? Would you recommend something more traditional? Why don't you just hit us in the room with that?
This is a great question. If you can't
If
you can't get your mom to buy 1 copy of your game for $1, how do you make your first buck in your game, fellas?
Virality. That's all there is to it, is virality. You got to give the message, friends and family. I mean, and that's the way it is in our games too. I mean, social is such a big part of the success, to get that critical mass, to get, you know, to make free, because freemium in itself doesn't work unless you have that critical mass. And I would say virality. Get it there, post on their Facebook, get their friends and family out there rooting for them. I mean, that's what makes Kickstarter work for the smaller projects, the non-game projects.
I think if you're shooting, I think it would be easier to sell it. I mean, you know exactly what every one of your users is worth, right? And it's well more than every one of my users is worth. So like there's that problem where like you have to get a bunch of people to play your game to make that dollar, or maybe get 1 to try it out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, make it the nichest game ever.
Yeah.
Make it a brony game. I will guarantee you that
Nathan
dollar
will give you $1 for that game.
guarantee you that if you make a Brony game, someone will buy it in like 0.00001 second.
I have heard talk in following the Adventure Time game jam that just happened. There is a pony jam coming shortly.
I was at Evo and there was a Brony fighting game and it was actually awesome.
Not to give all my secrets away, but I think the same thing about a furry game. If you do a furry game, not that you should.
It sounds like a joke, but it's actually not a joke. Like those super niches are crazy amazing. Like that is FTL, right? Like why do not all of us, but
Why would each of us?
Yeah, why do certain people in this room buy FTL right off the bat because they heard somebody who they respected say like this is it's ridiculous, and why it is ridiculous. That game is not fun in any traditional way. It's the most fun ever.
Yes. Star Trek. Thanks,
Grew up watching Star Trek.
Thanks, Dave. 2 more questions remain until beer.
Okay, so hi. So one of the first questions was about pay-to-win models. And it got me thinking, we've seen pay to win, we've seen the customization of your character, the social aspects, we've seen pay for additional content, whether it's further levels, advancing the story. So we have those dimensions of things, but I'm wondering what's missing here. Is there anything that we haven't seen yet? Is there anything you guys think is new or exciting? What's behind the paywall that we aren't really getting into yet?
Predict the future, fellas. What's up next?
I think something that hasn't been done yet that I would personally like would be buying your chapters up front. A bit of a merge, where you download your game, download your Sword and Sorcery, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to pay $5 for this. I want to pay my $1 for that first little bit, and then pay my $1 for the next if I like it.
Episodic.
I had
Episodic, I suppose,
we
yeah.
pitched something to Sony once
Without waiting.
that I thought was awesome, but they didn't think it was as awesome. But it was the idea of like it was free, but with escalating things to like you get to the end, you get to a door, you have to pay to go through the door. But the point is, it was escalating payment. Your engagement to it was correlated to how much you have to pay.
So like Scientology.
I don't know, that sounds to me like it'd be right up Sony's alley, but
it will be at some point.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of components of like things that people love about games that haven't been dabbled in. Like I really love fighting games. And one of the things that frustrates me a lot about fighting games is like significant waiting periods. Like, fuck, I want to get into a match and I got a lobby for 5 minutes and then the game go and I join and then that person drops out. And I want to see people trying to like find ways to allow premium experiences for people who are as invested as I am.
You mean Battlefield Premium?
Kind of, yeah. Like stuff like that I think is, to me, like I would love to, if I could find a way to skip over all of the crap in Street Fighter 4 or Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I would pay for it.
Would that be like VIP lobbies kind of thing?
Yeah, or just people, anybody who's like, look, I want to classify myself as someone who's hardcore, and I'm going to pay that extra, and it can't be much because
TF2 is doing that right now.
Yeah, TF2
with man-up mode.
Yeah. So it is like people are dabbling in it. It's not smart or anything.
All right, so we're talking about inventing something new, and you just said something that 2 other people are already doing. So.
Yeah, you mentioned episodic, so what's up? This battle gets so mean. Rob, give me your crystal ball. Did you give us one yet?
The reality is just like, everything's already been done. Everything's already been thought of. Like in advertising, they talk about it. There's no original ads or anything like that. I think what it is it's like trying to find those matchups that work. You know what I mean? We talked about, matching up, farm games with combat games and how, a couple of people have really done that right, or matching up, where's a tower defense game that's really in a freemium model that's done really well? I haven't seen those types of things. So I don't know if it's about like something that hasn't been invented. I think it's more about getting those right balances of things that we really like and delivered in a time frame that's palatable to us. And if we can get it a little bit faster or we can get it a little bit easier, I think that's great for the consumer.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for your question. One question remains before beer, and I did something me too, and door prizes. So door prizes, these are awesome, and beer. John, do it.
Okay, so I've heard a bit of cognitive dissonance around compulsive loops, and I wonder to what extent to what extent does the fact that most of the people, I think, who are passionate enough about games to create games are in fact like high-functioning game addicts? To what extent does that prevent us, from, as an industry, from having a deep discussion about addiction and these compulsive groups, rather than just kind of taking sides and just, saying, hey, we're not making landmines?
So the question is, can we not see the forest for the trees because we are the addicts ourselves? It's kind of the inmates running the asylum. So are we not qualified to even comment about how this is affecting people because we are the people?
We're having an intervention. That's awesome.
Anyone want to tackle that one, or
No,
is that
I
rhetorical?
think that's totally fair. Like I said, you saw how much cash I dropped in keyboard. You heard how much cash I dropped in keyboard was due. Like if I were spending that much money on a lot of other habits, you would call me an addict.
Yeah, I failed my compiler's course because I just had to finish that assault mode in Unreal Tournament. And the AI bots were really bad, but with my intervention, we could just sometimes barely finish that level.
When I was playing, what's the stupid game, Animal Crossing, I turned down invites to 3 real Halloween parties to collect the spooky furniture set. Next month at IGDA, we're having a group therapy.
I do think that one thing that really helps that type of stuff is like the larger, more varied people that are involved in making games, the less likely we are to get the tunnel vision.
Which is why we were sure to not have 4 white males on the panel this evening. Oh, shoot.
Well, I think also, I mean, when you talk about, again, premium and casual, those kinds of things, the audience is actually a lot larger than us. I definitely agree with you in terms of the core focus games. I think we make all kinds of mistakes as an industry because I would love to play a game where you're like a magical pony zombie and that'd be awesome. And which I would. But casual games, especially premium, because you're monetizing it by reaching like millions, literally millions of people. Your audience has to go beyond it. Over 40 million people. Canada and Rhode Island. Like so that's more than our demographic, right? So
I don't know if anyone's ever sucked dick for mega points.
I thought hooking your phone.
I really think you brought up a good point. I mean, I've spent, most of my career has been in development studios and working with developers. And one thing I can say about, I don't want to be too stereotypical, but one thing I can say about video game developers is they are extremely passionate, compulsive types of people. And I think it's a really valid argument. And I really think it's something that should be explored outside this room.
Thanks so much for your question. That was the last question before. Yes,